welcome once again to News Unlocked, the show that takes you beyond the headlines to the real stories, the real issues that matter by redefining what is prime time. Today we focus on the Central Vista Project, an ambitious redevelopment project in the heart of Delhi that would completely transform the national capital, including give the country a new parliament building. Now, while the Modi government seems determined to go ahead with it, activists, including architect groups, are claiming that this threatens to strip away the public identity of an iconic national space. The Central Vista project is estimated to have a price tag, according to some reports, of 20,000 crores. As I said, it seeks to build a new parliament, secretariat buildings, new official residences in the power corridor of the country. But as the opposition mounts between urban designers, green activists and heritage lovers, the matter has reached the Supreme Court. Today the court, which was hearing a petition seeking a stay on the project, took note of the Solicitor General's submission that he did not have enough time to make arguments today. The case will now come up for hearing on the 29th of July. In the meanwhile, the centre has filed a counter affidavit stating why we need a new parliament building, why redevelopment of the Central Vista is essential. Let's take a look first as we probe into the Central Vista project at the affidavit filed by the Central Public Works Department.
The Central Vista, an iconic 3-kilometer stretch in the heart of New Delhi that runs from the Rashtrapati Bhavan to India Gate. A stretch that the central government plans to redevelop, attracting a flurry of debate and multiple pleas against it in the Supreme Court. On Thursday, when the matter came up before a bench of Justices A.N. Khanwilkar, Dinesh Maheshwari and Sanjeev Khanna, the hearing was adjourned because of the Solicitor General's unavailability, and it is now listed for hearing on July 29. And while there are many questioning the need and timing of this project, the centre, through the Central Public Works Department, CPWD, has filed an affidavit justifying it. The CPWD, in its counter affidavit in the plea seeking stay against the Central Vista project, justifies the need for a new parliament building and the rest of it.
According to the CPWD affidavit, neither the existing parliament building nor the current government buildings are adequate or safe enough for government work to continue. In addition, the CPWD has also justified holding CVC meetings online and getting all clearances through web meetings. The central government is now expected to file a detailed affidavit on all aspects raised by various petitioners by Saturday, and the petitioners themselves will file their responses by Tuesday. The Supreme Court will take up this matter once again on Wednesday.
The government believes that the new parliament building, constructed with enhanced structural life, will last for centuries, and the project will become a symbol of national pride and inspire citizens to participate in the democratic traditions of India. The proposed redevelopment will also save an annual rent expenditure of 1,000 crore rupees, which the government spends due to a shortfall of about 0.38 million square meters currently. Multiple petitioners have over the past few months demanded a stay on the project while its pros and cons may be properly debated. Earlier, on 19th of June 2020, the Supreme Court refused staying the Central Vista redevelopment project, observing that it cannot stop authorities from acting as per law. This when senior advocate Sanjay Hegde, representing the intervening petitioner, questioned clearances for construction activities obtained for the project despite the case pending in the Apex Court. On 30th of April, the Apex Court bench, headed by Chief Justice S.A. Bobde, had refused staying the project, saying, during COVID-19 situation, nobody is going to do anything and there is no urgency.
Now remember, this is being billed as the Prime Minister's pet project, flagged off by the Narendra Modi government as the Central Vista redevelopment project. It's touted to be a project which some, as I said, suggest has a whopping price tag of 20,000 crores. The exact amount has still not been put in the public domain. In fact, very little of the actual plans are in the public domain. But here's a shocking fact. Considering that public money will be used to fund this redevelopment, we still don't know how much the project is billed to cost. What the project is trying to do is to seek a new parliament building, secretariat, new official residences. Momita Sen gives you a sense of what this project is all about.
Central Vista, Delhi's prime real estate, often labelled as the country's power corridor, is where the parliament stands and the secretariat sits. From the Rashtrapati Bhavan at one end to India Gate at the other, this stretch includes urban architectural heritage buildings as well as vast green spaces that are open to public and accessible to all. On 20th of March 2020, the central government notified a change in the land use for 7 plots in the master plan for Delhi 2021. 6 out of them were around one particular area in Delhi, this one. The public notice informed that out of the 6 plots in this area whose land use has been changed, 5 of them were previously recognized as public or semi-public facilities or recreational areas, and only one of them, the 6th one, had a pre-existing government office building on it. Now, all 6 plots have been turned into government office plots. Not physically yet, but the first step was taken. Paperwork filed and approved.
Unlike any other monument, this is a place where you feel part of a national narrative.
One needs to look at these spaces both as as lived spaces as well as very important ecological spaces. And ecological spaces partly which were natural, but partly also created over a period of time through the engagement with that space.
There is a total of 86.1 acre of accessible public land which has now been recognized as government office land. So why is the government changing land use in this area?
The really thing that jumps out is this land grab. Our capital complex gives as much space to the people as it does to the government. What one is seeing is this kind of transfer of almost double. So basically almost entirely. So if this is about 85, 90 acres each, what's happened is that the people's land has gone down to mere 15 acres. And that entire land has transferred to government.
So the Central Vista is an enterprise of colonial imperialism, yes, but it's of hubris sort of married to an acknowledgement of growing Indian self-identity and nationalism. Otherwise, they could have stayed put in Calcutta. They had their Victoria Memorial. They chose to come to Delhi and build an architecture that really stressed on continuity of materiality as well as symbolism of existing Indian architecture. The material is so Delhi, the beige and the red sandstone, because they had to acknowledge growing Indian national identity and nationalism. Added to that this was Indian labor, Indian artisans, Indian funds, which actually put this together.
In October 2019, the Narendra Modi-led central government announced a plan to revamp this 3-kilometer-long Central Vista. The proposed plan included construction of a new parliament building and multiple secretariat buildings along the entire stretch by 2024.
We are a democracy, and a democracy means that the people and the government need to trust each other. The question is that we come to this idea that because of the opacity, there is a fear that there might be a fair bit of arbitrariness. And that endangers heritage. So one prime example for arbitrariness is the arbitrary timeline that they've fixed. It does not have any roots in logic, need, necessity at all. So if there is that, we would like to know what the thinking behind this ridiculously small timeline is.
The proposed plan's reported budget is around 20,000 crore rupees, but the plan itself is said to be nebulous, and many points on it seem to keep changing. So even the cost assigned cannot be taken as the final outlay.
And let me go across now to understand the objections to this new parliament building as well as get the government perspective. I'm joined by Madhav Raman, architect and urbanist, who's been part of a team, Lokpat, that is really leading in a way this campaign against this Central Vista revamp. Madhav, I'm going to come to you in a moment. I want you to listen to first what Rajdeep Puri says. We had him on Agenda Aaj Tak, the Housing Minister and Urban Development Minister. Listen into what Rajdeep Puri had to say when he was asked the question in December 2019 about why this project was so important. Listen in.
जो सेंट्रल विस्टा प्रोजेक्ट है, ये भारतीय जनता पार्टी का प्रोजेक्ट नहीं है, ये हमारी सरकार का प्रोजेक्ट है और खास करके ये हमारे प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी का एक, मैं कहूंगा, पुराना सपना है.
This is the Prime Minister's dream project, Madhav Raman, and there are those who believe that every Prime Minister has the opportunity to leave his or her imprint on, in a way, perhaps the skyline of a city. This is Mr. Modi's way of trying to put his imprint. How do you respond to that? Why not give it a chance?
Well, you give a chance to something that you can retrieve from a situation. I mean, I would imagine something as precious as heritage and environment is not something one would want to gamble with. I'd like to go back to what Mr. Puri said. It is his government's project. I think we've moved on as a democracy from projects being individual projects tied to individual personalities or individual people, even the Prime Minister. I think the idea that this is a government project demands a certain accountability from government to the people. And a pet project may well be a pet project, but it still needs to be thought through. It's not a dream. It's a pet project.
So you're saying that you're questioning the very idea of putting in place such a project without thinking it through. Am I correct? That you want want it to be much more transparent. You want it to be more transparent in the first instance.
Every government has the right to ensure that it has the appropriate facilities and the capacities in place to function. But to come to that conclusion, you need to have done a certain set of analysis of what is actually required, and there is a certain data set that gets created. And that should ideally be in the public domain, because after all, the government functions for the people.
Okay, let me therefore come to you, Madhav, in a moment, because let's go back to the minister. Remember, one of the non-transparent elements, according to critics, is the way the selection of the architect was done. Now, the architect for this project is someone who has been closely associated with previous projects of Mr. Modi, the Sabarmati riverfront, for example, in Ahmedabad, other projects in Varanasi. Bimal Patel is a very acknowledged architect from Ahmedabad, and it's his firm that has been put in charge to look at this entire issue of revamping the Central Vista. What did Rajdeep Puri have to say over the choice of the architect? Take a look.
Design competition rakhi thi. There were 27 applicants. This was a global tender, और भारतीय architects, urban planners, design companies ने भाग लिया. कुछ उसमें अंतर्राष्ट्रीय companies भी थी, और 6 companies उसके बाद shortlist हुई.
Is part of the problem the choice of the architect because he's associated with previous Modi government projects, Madhav Raman? Is that part of the problem?
No, I don't think any architect would want to be held to ransom because of their clientele of past projects executed. We all look forward to projects. I think, again, with the Honorable Minister, there is a certain dichotomy. In the same sentence, he refers to it as a design competition and a tender. I think it's important to understand the difference between the two. A tender is essentially driven by the idea that the government must spend optimal amount of money in pursuit of its works. Now, there's a huge aspect of financial, the financial bid carries a very important status here. A design competition, on the other hand, is a process by which you try and capture as many ideas, as many concepts, and you look at the feasibilities. And these are all part of the process of design competitions. The Indian Council of Architecture provides for a very detailed set of guidelines on how to run competitions. and even the government itself, this very government, has conducted design competitions in this very in this very precinct. The National War Memorial, I'm sure you've seen it come up in a couple of years. That was the result of a design competition, a successfully run design competition. So I think the clarity on whether this is design competition or tender, I don't see that with the government. They've actually run a tender, and they should call it just that. If I may continue, he also referred to it as being a global tender. Now, just publishing it on global platforms doesn't make it a global tender. It needs to have global participation. Unfortunately, this within the requirements of the bid, every person or every entity applying for this tender needs to be registered in India. So it's not truly global. So these are the kind of sort of lacuna in this whole process, which makes it completely unfathomable that why is it proceeding in this manner.
Let me come though to the critical question now, Madhav, and let's listen into what the minister said. The critical question is why? I think everyone wants to know why. Why now? Why the urgency? Why the timelines? We have a great parliament building. The entire Rajpath is something that across the country people have iconified in many ways. So why do we need a new parliament building? Why do we need this revamp in the first place? Remember, although no studies have yet been released in the public domain to support the government's claim that actually parliament buildings is crumbling, there will be many more MPs perhaps in a few years. This is what the minister had to say about why these renovations were needed. Listen in once again to Rajdeep Puri.
सरकार की तरफ से हर वर्ष 1000 करोड़ रुपया खर्च कर रहे हैं to get accommodation space for government offices. So space है, space की utilization जो है suboptimal है, so we need to resolve that.
This is about space. There's a space crunch. One report, Madhav Raman, says that in 2026, as delimitation takes place, you'll have many more members of parliament. The parliament will therefore not be able to accommodate all of them. According to another report, which is not in the public domain, the structure itself is weakening, we are told by sources, and therefore you need a new parliament building for starters. You need a new Shastri Bhavan. These are all colonial buildings that need to be restructured, renovated for a new India.
Well, let's not look at it with so many broad strokes. There are many bunches of things here that one needs to look at. Let's start at the top and the requirement of Parliament to expand. As you rightly pointed out, delimitation. Now, this is an exercise that gets conducted at the end of every census. So the next one is due to happen, should have happened after the census of 2021. But because of the previous delimitation act that is currently in place, it's been suspended till 2026. I think there are 2 or 3 critical issues here that need to actually demand a much greater, I wouldn't even say just an informal public debate. This demands a parliamentary debate. You are well aware about how the constitution stitches our federal structure together and the importance of allotment of Lok Sabha seats to various states. The proposition that this is a estimate that one can do on the back of the envelope is in fact doing disservice to our democracy and the federal nature of our democracy. Currently, there are 545 members. There's a cap of 550 membership right now because of the previous Delimitation Act. We are being told through various sources, as you rightly point out. I must say that none of this has any official report backing it. These are all unknown sources from the ministry that represent themselves in the press that we glean our information from. But the point being that the number being touted is 900 Lok Sabha members.
Yes.
Apart from the fact that the idea of debate in parliament amongst 900 members itself needs to be considered, but that is merely a unitary method of increasing the number of membership.
No, that's another issue. I'm asking you that the government also says the foundations of the parliament building, foundations of buildings like Shastri Bhavan are weakening and therefore you need new buildings.
Look, I can only say that the people who've been responsible for the maintenance of parliament and all the other government buildings in Central Vista are the CPWD themselves. So if they have failed to do a good job and they need to look at the prolonging the life of the heritage buildings, then they must commission a heritage impact assessment, a structural assessment, come to a conclusion what the lines within which the consultants must operate, and then float a tender with very clear Lakshman Rekhas of what can and cannot be done in the heritage piece.
So are you drawing a distinction therefore, let's say, between a Shastri Bhavan, which is frankly, even from this is a pure outsider amateur perspective appears a building in urgent need of renovation, and then looking at a parliament building, north block, south block, and looking at all of them very differently, that we can't have one size fits all, say all these buildings are unsafe. Some may be, others are not, and others are heritage buildings.
Absolutely, and the government has fiduciary responsibility for maintaining these government structures, not for themselves, for us at the end of the day. Now, the thing is, if you analyze the land use as it existed before the land use change that they notified, there is plenty of land already in government use that they could have made new structures on, modern offices on. They could have connected them in various ways that they like. This is all clustered and legitimately government land. Why was there the necessity for this humongous increase of more than double of government land use within the same precinct? There is no explanation for this. So, I mean, we are at a loss to argue the whys and wherefores because the relevant studies and assessments haven't been done and placed in the public domain.
So, essentially, in conclusion, are you basically asking the court that this needs to be made much more transparent? It is your and my taxpayers' money which is going to go in this grand redesign. Therefore, we, the citizens of India, we, the architects, we, the citizens of India, need to know how the money is going to be spent for such a major revamp of what you and others see as precious heritage democratic space of this country. Am I correct?
Absolutely. I mean, if I can just extend that, I think the key word being we, the people of India, all of us have an investment in this environmental asset and the heritage asset that this space is, and it is protected for that reason. The process of going about it needs to be legal. We share a contract with this government and we share trust with this government. We must be allowed to come along with the government in this process in all ways and manners.
I take your point, and I think that is where we will conclude this. We will continue to focus on these issues. As I said, we want to redefine prime time. These are issues which in today's India do not often make it to the news headlines amidst the noise of news. Madhav Raman, I appreciate your joining us. Remember, very few democracies have had this chance to revamp, redesign their power corridor. But when you do it, transparency is needed. The details of the project for now are shrouded in mystery. What does that say about a democratic nation in the 21st century? Well, you, the viewer, the taxpayer, have to decide. Is 20,000 crores, as is being alleged, for this project really worth it or not? Thanks for watching. Bye for now. We've unlocked the news once again. Bye for now.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.